everybody, and welcome to MLL Roundtable, a little special edition on this Wednesday night, April 23rd, 2014. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. It's me, Andrew Goldberg, and my co-host, Brendan Stout. We've been on I'd say a month or two hiatus. Sorry to all our fans, which, by the way, Brendan, I got some statistics from Marissa. Either 1,800 people listen to us, or 1,800 different clicks have occurred to listen to us. So we actually got a solid following somehow, some way. People actually enjoy us. I don't know what it is, but we're appealing to somebody.
They must be. I don't even know what they're on. They've got to know something.
It must be they see. Actually, they can't see anything, but they must love my Jew curls, which I have to say have reached Chia Pet levels.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Even more so than the tournament.
Yeah. It's really bad. I don't remember the last time I got my hair cut. I think it was I don't even remember, January maybe, and it probably sooner, like the end of January. And I'm getting a haircut Friday, but it's just curls, and it's not even cool, awesome curls. It's like a tight Jew fro, and it's just puffy, and in the morning it just looks terrible. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Anyway, we're back. We're back after a long hiatus, ladies and gentlemen, and just in time for the start of the MLL season, which starts this Saturday with the Hounds versus the Machine and the Outlaws versus the Launch. There hasn't been that much news recently, but training camps did start for every team. I know a lot of the writers here in Lacrosse We Trust went down to training camps. Brendan, I don't know if you did, but for the past couple weekends, people have gone, and you can tweet at us at MLL Roundtable, at Goldieberg, and at BStout631 as well. And like us on Facebook, MLL Roundtable, to catch any shows that you might have missed as well. Brendan, did you actually go to any teams down there, or you've been busy with coaching?
Unfortunately, I have not. I've been busy coaching. I've been busy working for American Indoor Lacrosse.
Right.
Working my 500 other jobs that I have.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. But it's fun doing 500 jobs. I don't know why, but it is.
It's to a point.
Yeah, to a point, exactly. When you're not running around like crazy. Yeah.
To a point you don't piss off your coworker. Slap you across the head because you're trying to get rid of too many shifts.
Yeah, I don't have coworkers to piss off really, unless I misspell something in a newsletter, or we lose games in lacrosse. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, lucky you.
Yeah, I guess. We'll see. But anyway, so we started with training camps this weekend. Everybody opened up. And the biggest news to come out this weekend was the finalized roster of 25 active man rosters in the MLL. So what we're going to do right now is actually look at each roster, team by team, from worst team based off of last year's record to the best team. So we'll start with the Machine and work on our way on up to the Chesapeake Bay Hawks, the two-time defending champs, looking for the three-peat. So Brendan, when you look at the Ohio Machine, last year they were 2-14 on the season. The season started with a 6-game losing streak. They won in week 7, and then they actually improved towards the middle of the season, where they lost a lot of close games. I'm doing a preview for them for the website in lacrossewetrust.com, and I noticed that they lost 3 games by 3 goals, and I think the other 4 or 5 on the second half of the schedule with about 1 or 2 goals. When you look at the roster, the final 25-man roster, is there anything that really sticks out to you in terms of surprises, or does everything kind of stay status quo?
Honestly, if anything, they've improved.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that, like you said, towards the end of the season, they started getting better. They lost a few close games, and it's very exciting for that team to do that. Um, when you have guys like Marcus Holman on your team, Steele Stanwick, and guys of that caliber, it really adds to your team and really makes things possible. And Ohio showed that they do have the possibility to win. Um, they the one spot that everybody's talking about is their midfield. You improve by adding Kyle Harrison. You improve by adding, um, guys like Bill McGlone, who I don't think have played for a year or so, but he's got the Broad Street bully in him coming out of Philly. So he's a fighter. He went down to Maryland. He was good down there too. And you have
Peter
they add Brian Farrell to LSM, which is big for them. They got rid of Kyle Hartzell, unfortunately, who, I mean, don't get me wrong, probably one of the dumber moves a team could make, but you got to do what you got to do in order to get players. And in that trade, they also picked up faceoff guy Matt Delente out of Johns Hopkins, who I believe is a Malvern Prep out of my area, faceoff guy. I mean, he has, I think, an over 50% win percentage in the MLL for faceoffs. The kid is ridiculous.
Yeah, he's pretty good. And they also, I mean, when you looked at it coming into this year without, all the before they made all the additions, their midfield was very, very weak. I mean, they had really nobody. They were working with guys like Jake Bernhardt, who, being a Maryland follower, an open Maryland follower, he was good, but he was never like a big point producer. They brought in Kevin Mack, who actually starts this year on the practice squad, surprisingly. I figured that he was playing a little crunch time for them, or not crunch time because they were always losing games, but he was seeing a lot more time as the season went on, and I thought he would be pretty good for a D-midi type guy, but he actually starts on the practice squad with Matt Caffarelli, as well as James Delaney and Matt Sylvia. But this team's really improved. They were improving last year, like I said, and look at the names they added both through the college draft as well as the player pool / I don't even know what to call it really, because when they added all these LXM players, I don't know what the MLL even called it. It was just like a player pool, and it was just like, yeah, here you go. And it wasn't a draft, because they said it was going to be worked on like a waiver wire in terms of the worst team gets first picks, and then it goes on and so forth. So what was fortunate for them actually is they got Peter Baum, who you didn't mention, who's going to be incredible for them in the midfield or attack if they want to work him down low on like my team used to call it Mickey, or a short stick on short stick, or an invert, I guess you would say is the more common term. He's going to be great there, and he's comfortable from both sides. But they got him last year as the number 1 pick, so all he had to do was sign. So they didn't have to waste a draft, waiver wire pick on him, which means they took Kyle Harrison, like you said, which is huge now. Now their midfield, their first team midfield is Peter Baum, Kyle Harrison, and then they drafted Tommy Schreiber, who's just lighting up the NCAA. He is the best midfielder in the game, and last week against Dartmouth was his first scoreless game. Other than that, he was ungodly on that team, or he was a godlike figure on in college lacrosse.
Yeah. He was absolutely dominant. I mean, that's like you said, their midfielders the midfield just increases full force, and they also add in Maryland the tackman/midfielder. He played attack at Maryland. Right. Kevin Cooper, who played a few games for Chesapeake last year, then got traded, but he'll definitely be an addition for them as well.
Yeah, and I mean, you got some of the other college guys they added. Rob Guida, who doesn't really put up a lot of points, but he's good in that system in terms of having a good outside shot, and he can, he has a lot more assists this year than goals. R.G. Keenan's really solid face-off guy from UNC, as well as, a really good short stick D-midi too, so maybe they pair him up with Dominique Alexander, the OSU graduate from last year. They also bring in Stephen O'Hara and Jackson Place on defense. O'Hara is really good defender out of Notre Dame, and Jackson Place is second in the nation in caused turnovers at Bucknell. So they definitely got some players. And then, like you said, they added Brian Farrell. They added Matt Delente, too. And Delente is really going to help them with the faceoffs. I forget who was their guy last year. I didn't.
Eric O'Brien.
Yeah, and he wasn't good. He was losing like 40. He was probably only winning what 40% of their faceoffs. 45.
Yeah, when he first started, he was pretty decent, and then it just kind of declined.
Yeah, so I mean, they definitely upgrade with that, which should help them. I mean, we've obviously seen that faceoffs don't matter as much in the pros because if guys good offenses will just hold the ball and really move it around and limit the turnovers. But it definitely helps to have a guy in case they want to do that. And attack-wise, look, attack is their best position, and it's probably the best young attack team in the MLL. They have two Team USA guys, Marcus Holman and Steele Stanwyck. And then they have Logan Schuss, who was probably, arguably, the MLL Rookie of the Year last year. If, maybe he played for a better team or Pinnell didn't do as well one game. And then they added Salisbury attackman Eric Crum from the LXM Pro Tour as well. So, I mean, this attack unit is very good.
Yeah, it's probably like if Ohio had done better last year, it probably would get like one of the ratings of like one of the best young attacks in the league. And Don't get me wrong, they had to really have like one of the best attacks in the league because I mean, you guys with Marcus Holman and Steele Stanwyck and Logan Schuss, they're just ridiculous. Yeah. They step in and just produce. Marcus Holman steps in, puts 20 points on the board and get 10 games, and then Logan Schuss goes and puts 35 on the board for in 11 games. Like it's ridiculous. These kids are ridiculous. I want to adopt them. Let me adopt them.
Yeah.
Give me some money off it,
They'd be older than you, Brendan.
What are you talking about? I'm 3 years out of college. These kids are a year. Let's get real.
Oh, okay. They be my age then.
Yeah. So.
There you go. But I think when we get back to the team, though, I think the biggest really huge question for them is on defense because they have Greg Bice, who's good. They have Brian Farrell, who I don't know if you put up top because he's really good in between the lines and he provides offense, or do you maybe put him down low and put a guy like I don't know, Jackson Place when he comes to the MLL? Does he play there? I don't really know. I mean, Chad Wiedemeyer, Princeton grad, he was really good. Del Barton guy from my area. He started all 4 years there, I think, at Princeton. But I mean, do they really have that great of a defense? I don't know.
I agree with what you're saying. Their defense may not be like the best. Yeah, they have some crackdown guys. Brian Farrell, like you said, LSM can create offense, can play defense too, which is perfect. Greg Bice named captain along with goaltender Brian Phipps, midfielder Kyle Harrison, and who was the other guy got named captain? And Steele Stanwyck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are in a sense veteran players who are going to lead these kids onto the field. You got Max Schmidt, who was one of the best defenders coming out of Maryland. And like you said, Chad Wiedemeyer, Dana Wilbur, those guys, phenomenal. And then you have Jordan Helpe. Some people forget about him. I believe he played LSM at Detroit 2 years, I think a year or so ago. I think they made the first round of the NCAAs.
Well, last year, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
they
last
did.
year,
Yeah. They almost upset Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he played LSM for them. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to put a pole in Helpe's hands or, maybe even put him at short stick team mid.
Yeah, I think the last question I have here, I have two more notes. One, Chase Carrero could also take faceoffs. The guy graduated last year from Denver, and he's, a good short stick midi as well as faceoff man, and he definitely has the offense to go along with it. He won 57% of his faceoffs last year. He had 52 points, total over 63 games there. So he's a good player. And then the last note I want to ask you about is the goalie position because, Brian Phipps was named, the captain, and it's really hard to bench a captain or something, but I don't think he was that outstanding last year, and I don't know if you attribute that to your team, but Scott Rogers kind of, I don't know, he was like a relief pitcher to use a baseball term, but he kind of came in towards the end and actually had some good games, and obviously his track record at Notre Dame speaks for itself. do you think Scott Rogers plays more games this year?
That's a good question. I mean, both of those guys coach. Rogers is down at Towson, I believe, or I think he was at Marquette. Now he's at Towson.
He's just bouncing around, coaching different teams, taking credit where he can.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I don't blame him.
All right. Yeah, I would do the same probably.
And then Brian Phipps is over at Georgetown.
But those teams should be done.
Huh?
Those teams should be done by in the next week or so because neither are going in the postseason really.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends if they do win their tournament.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Towson win the CAA, and then.
I mean, Georgetown's out of it. They're
Yeah, I mean,
1 and 5.
Georgetown's got to
Yeah.
play Big East. You got St. John's, and I believe Rutgers, and then.
Yeah, but they're completely out of the Big East tournament. They don't even qualify.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, Phipps should be ready to go right away. But I mean, at the same time, like you could start Phipps and put Rogers in the second half, or flip it. I mean, we're doing that. We're doing a 2-goalie system in high school.
Yeah, I think once you get to the pros, though, it's like you stick
It's
to
harder.
one goalie because like you can get away with it in college. Like Denver does it, and they're successful somehow doing it. Princeton tried doing it; they weren't very good at it this year. But I think the pros they really settle in on one guy.
Yeah, don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. You definitely want to have like a one goalie. Like they say, if you don't have a starting goalie, like if you have 2 goalies that are starters, you don't really have a starting goalie. in a
Right?
sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
But at the same time, like if you have one kid that's really good at opening up a game, playing the first half, playing phenomenal, keeping your team, settled in and whatnot, and all of a sudden, you start to realize in third, fourth quarter, you get shaky, can't really close, but then all of a sudden you realize your other kid can. It's like, why not?
Yeah. Exactly. So I mean, it's definitely an interesting conundrum, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I mean, it was funny. My goalie who closes out our games the other day, he was like, "This is what I'm paid for."
You don't get paid. Wait, you get paid?
You're a sophomore in high school. You're not getting paid for anything.
Yeah. What kind of agent do you have? I want your agent.
Hey, that's why we love being goalies, right? We're all knuckleheads.
Yeah, come on. I want to get paid for playing a half of high school lacrosse. God, I had to work my ass off just to get paid to be a coach. And I saved 48% of my shots last year. I probably don't even deserve to be a coach. Anyway, let's look at the New York Lizards. Let's change gears here to a team that's really improved this year. I mean, really, really improved. We were talking about this before we came on, Brendan, but we were talking about the talent and how much talent there really is this year. It was essentially like an arms race this year between the Lizards and the Bayhawks, it felt like. And the Lizards now have, after all their additions, all this craziness, which we'll get into in a second, they have 7 Team USA players on their roster that's tied for first with the Bayhawks, which we'll get to later. But I mean, this team went. I think they lost they were 4-8 or something last year, whatever the number is. And what was that?
4-10.
Yeah, 4-10. And now they're probably one of the top teams in the game. They added Shamel Bratton on that LXM Pro Tour waiver wire, whatever you want to call it. They get. I'm gonna harp on this the whole entire time.
Yeah,
Someone's gonna get pissed off about this.
It's like the nipple on the butt that won't go away.
Yeah. They also added Ned Crotty. They also added who else did they add? Why am I blanking on this?
You're making me blank on it.
I know, but they just got like a huge. I'm looking through the roster right now. I don't know why I'm blanking on it. But they have DiNapoli as well. Oh, they added Steve DiNapoli, short stick defensive midfielder. That goes along with David Earl, who I don't know what's happened to him, but Notre Dame guy who was really good player in college. I mean, top guy. But I don't know what happened. They added Kyle Hartzell from the Ohio Machine. They obviously bring back the Rookie of the Year and Rob Pennell. They have Tommy Palasek back. Jojo Marasco really peaked at the end of the season. Max Sebald as well. They added Matt Strebel. That's the other guy I was looking for. So now, when we look at this roster, Brendan, this offense is loaded. I mean, really loaded. I don't know what defenses are going to do, because you have Crotty, you have Pennell, and who would be the fellow attackman? I guess Palasek down low. And now you have Seabald up top. You have Strebel up top. Two guys who can bring it from the outside. Maybe Marasco working the crease. I mean, there are a lot of possibilities on this offense.
I mean, we said that about the Lizards last year too, and look what happened. They completely crapped the bed.
Yeah. But how much of that was due to injury? Because wasn't Seabald, he had a bum leg. He was working through an injury. I mean, what happened with David Earl? All right, I got to ask you what happened with David Earl. I don't know why, but I'm getting, kind of irked about this.
Google it.
I don't want to. I want instant analysis. This is what the people want. We give the people what they want, Brendan. Of course they could Google it. They want to hear it from my mouth and your mouth.
They don't want to hear anything from us.
Yeah, that's probably true. No one wants to hear anything out of my mouth.
See the Jew girls from here.
Yeah, all right, I may be, yeah, okay. Anyway, looking at this offense, I mean, just describe it. It's just really good.
It's ridiculous. I'm speechless. I need to go to thesource.com and find a word for this. And I'm not
Finding new adjectives. Stupendous.
Yes, stupendous.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, but like I said, I mean, you have guys that can really stretch the offense and really allow, guys like Pennell and Crotty to really search the whole entire field and just pick off an offense. If a team wants to play zone, which no one ever does, but if they do, I mean, you got Strebel bringing it from the outside. You got Max Seaball bringing it from the outside. If Pennell and Crotty want to switch with each other in terms of being quarterbacks, I mean, that's my biggest question coming into the Lizards offseason is what's going to happen. I mean, look, both Crotty and Pennell are class act guys. There's not going to be like a power struggle here. I mean, these guys aren't in it for the money. They're like the highest paid guys getting paid like $30,000. But I do wonder who, I guess, in crunch time, who they would go to as a quarterback.
The quarterback, I would Ned Crotty.
Is that more because of experience?
That, and I mean, when Rob Pennell came on the scene, like he was really good, like he was doing his thing, blah blah blah. But he really had a lackluster for, in a sense, sharing the ball.
Mm.
He tried to do. I mean, don't get me wrong, the kid is phenomenal. I take absolutely nothing from him. The kid just, dominates. But in this league, if you don't share the rock, you're hurting your team.
Well, he did though last year. He had games where he was putting up like three or four assists. He was doing whatever they needed him to do. He was on major point streaks.
Yeah, I know, but it's just some stuff that I saw in the game where he would take a shot where he should have passed it. I mean, and don't get me wrong, that's part of the game.
Yeah, he had 25 goals and 17 assists, 42 points. That's ranks for 9th in the league in only 10 games.
Yeah, I know, but he could have had at least 55, 60 if he passed the dang thing.
Well, his 17 assists. I mean, I got to disagree with you there. He's obviously passing it up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not saying he's not passing. I'm just saying.
You think he's just missing opportunities that are there?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right. But in that sense, I would give it to Ned Crotty as the quarterback because he does have the experience and he does, he's played in, those big games and whatnot. So, I mean, he understands situations. Whereas I think Rob Pennell, don't get me wrong, would go to his question mark dodge and probably sting the corner.
That is one of the prettiest moves in lacrosse. You know how there's certain things in like football or basketball where it's like a signature thing, like I love KD's just like pop, like he just off the dribble 3-pointer, or like the way like I don't know, like LaShawn McCoy cuts, like the Rob Pennell question mark move is just like one of those staple things in lacrosse that is just beautiful when you see it.
Yeah, they may have to change it to the James Pennell question mark dodge because his brother ripped that out of his book.
Yeah, that one game in the beginning of the season was he had a beautiful question mark.
I mean, it made his brother look like
bad.
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah, it looked like there was a clone.
Mimic you like that.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so we're talking a lot about the offense, but the biggest question, obviously, with all those offensive additions, what's going to happen on defense? They drafted a lot. They went defensive focus, which you and I thought about when we did our draft previews. They bring in Joe Fletcher, loyal defenseman, and the only rookie in the college ranks to make Team USA. And they also bring in Luke Dupre from Duke, who actually tore his ACL, unfortunately.
He did?
Yeah, he tore it.
Not
Not against Rutgers, but against Virginia. He tore his ACL. He's out for the year. So that's a big loss, not only for Duke, but I think that could be a big loss for New York. Because I think what you and I kind of asked each other after the draft is what's really happening with New York and all these long pulls, because none of those guys are really guys who go down low and play, and we thought maybe they're just going to play the matchup game with all these pulls around, because you have Brian Karalunas, who's a takeaway guy. Joe Fletcher, varying reports on what they consider as a lockdown guy, or if he's just like really good in a system, like whatever it is. So what happens now? I mean, look, Dupree's not going to be like the end-all, be-all. He was just there to help. But this defense did need a makeover, and they bring those guys in. Obviously, you have the Understein brothers at short stick defensive midfield, as well as DiNapoli and John Austin. So what's going to happen, I guess, defensively that you would see? And they also have Kyle Hartzell. So they have essentially, pull, like long stick midi. CJ Costabile is another long stick midi. Like Brandon Buckley is the only guy who goes down low for them. I mean, I don't know where exactly what they're going to do. I guess is what I'm saying.
Pretty much the same question we had last year was their defense.
Right.
I mean, you have a stud of Drew Adams stepping in net, and I think he's probably the best goalie in the league.
When he gets the help.
And the reason I say that is because his defense is obviously not the best. Unfortunately, I mean they're great. As a team, it just isn't mixing well. Right. I mean, if they kept I think it was PT Ricky King. Yeah. No, sorry, Jack Reed. It was Jack Reed who got traded to them last year, and now he's back on Boston. But I mean, it's hard to say what this defense is going to do. Like you said, they have all those polls with Kyle Hartzell and CJ Costabile, and those guys. But I mean, if Joe Fletcher ends up coming and playing, right after his college season, which is going to be
it's going to be like midway through the season.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be midway through the season, and then it'll be, June by the time they're done, in a sense. Well, obviously, June 1st because of Memorial Day weekend.
And then he has to adjust to the game and learn all the defense.
Yeah. Like, is it really going to be worth him joining the Lizards if he's going to be gone within a month playing for Team USA? If he makes that final roster spot. Yeah, is he gonna even bother?
Yeah, that's the biggest question too. I don't know.
With their two top picks in the draft, back to back. After all, one with a torn ACL, and one that may not even come play because he's playing for Team USA. It's like, Drew Adams, you're going to be very busy, and then that. Drew Adams going to Team USA too. Like.
Yeah, and speaking of that, who's gonna play? Like if Drew Adams leaves, okay, your backup goalie is Sean Brady. Well, yeah, but it's Sean Brady, and then Devin Wills is on your practice squad. So you really I mean, no offense to her, obviously she's better than you and I, but like at the same time, like you're now playing Wayne Brady's cousin, and obviously it's not Wayne Brady, but like you have Sean Brady in there and Devin Wills. You're one shot in the wrong place away from having essentially a rookie goaltender coming in. I don't know.
Joe Splina, sign me and Andrew up.
Yeah, well, come on, they got Devin Wills. Like, there's a reason why she's there, and like me and you are doing this podcast right now.
Hey, I'm having fun.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm not having fun. I'm just saying my ability to play lacrosse isn't that good. If I was, you know what I wanted to do? Okay, this is going to be the last note because we really got to get through these rosters. But one, there's a t-shirt that has, like the Jersey t-shirts, it says Beast on it and 32. I think you should get that, by the way. That the New York team is shopping or selling. And two, I wanted to, so I got, I can go to Lizards games like as media member of the press because of In Lacrosse We Trust and all that stuff. And I was thinking for one of the training camps if I had gone to bring my goalie stuff and like put a GoPro cam on for InLacrosseWeTrust.com and have the guys shoot on us or shoot on me and see, like, give our like listeners, viewers, whatever you want to say, like a preview, like this is what it's like an average, like, Division III goalie to sit in net and have like the best of the best lacrosse players just rip shots.
I would absolutely love that.
Yeah, I probably would have taken one off like the shin or the arm, like the bicep, and just said I'm done.
Yeah, both of us have played with our fair share. High school played with our fair share. Like D1 guys and whatnot that may or may not have gone pro. I played with obviously Owen Bly and Mason Foley, and taking shots from them. It was like even in high school, I was like, oh god, it hit me.
Yeah.
It's like, is my arm broken off? Like, what's going on? I knew I took this shot from Owen, went off my knee, went 50 feet in the air.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I remember in the NCAA title game, back when Schwartzman was still there, it was the final possession. Danowski takes a shot, rips it, hits Schwartzman in the shin, and goes all the way out till midfield.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that was unreal. Anyway, let's get over to Boston because
Shins of steel.
Yeah, until it's broken in half like one of those what's it called, Ultimate Fighters, where they go kick a guy and it breaks in half. You got a new femur. Anyway, let's go to Boston because one thing I really want to talk about is the inactive list because two guys on the team are inactive. Eric Martin on defense, which is whatever, but Matt Pasquet, former MVP, and more importantly, former assistant coach at Drew University, gave me free stuff, free stick. Matt Pasquet is inactive. What do you make of that? Like, he was a former MVP last year. He had a decent amount of points. Maybe he's heading towards the end of his career. Like, I don't know. Is he on the inactive list because he coaches at Wagner. He's the head coach there. Obviously they're not going to be in any postseason tournament or anything, but is it because of that? Like, or maybe he's taking time off? I don't know.
It really depends. Last year he played phenomenal. I don't think there may have been a better finisher than him last year.
He's one of the best finishers in the game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's like, with him on the inactive list, like, yeah, it's shocking because you expect the best one of the best finishers in the game.
And he was a captain too, two-time captain the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. So it's like, it kind of throws you off. Like, what the hell?
Okay, exactly.
Sorry for using that word, but
yeah.
like, look, like WTH. But he did. I don't know. It throws me off.
Yeah. But, besides that, what's your biggest question about this roster when you look at it? Is it the midfield, like we talked about? Getting younger on this midfield, because I feel like they're in transition between the team that thought they could compete for an MLL championship and a team that's rebuilding. It's kind of weird. They're in that like weird what's the zone? The like twilight zone of their franchise.
Yeah. It's
because they do have really good young players. Will Manny was one of the best tackman young guys from last year. He worked really well. Obviously, they had Paul Rabel. Scott Ratliff, who was like just as good as Joe Fletcher, comes in from defense. Jack Rice, talented attackman out of Villanova. Kyle Sweeney is there. They also added what's his name? Oh my God, I can't believe I just forgot his name. Brody Merrill, right? Thank you. They have Chris Eck, one of the best face-off men in the game. Ryan Boyle still on attack, oldie but goodie. Steven Berger, great player who they acquire from the Wizards. But I don't know. It seems like they're still in transition somewhere.
They also. Yeah, speaking of Owen Bly, he is on the active roster. Just
right.
To point that out.
Yeah, I was gonna say your boy Owen Bly is on the roster.
Boy Owen Bly.
Yeah.
And my boy Mason Poley, who's on Charlotte, but we'll get to that later. And then it's the biggest question for me in this team is goalie.
With Jordan Burke, right?
Yep, Jordan Burke and Eric Haggerty.
Right.
You have Austin Kaut coming out of college. I really don't know if Penn State's going to make the tournament this year or not. They don't have the AQ.
Yeah.
And they've really dropped some games.
They're 6-6.
The biggest one they have is I think Notre Dame.
Yeah, they're 6-6. So they can't make the tournament.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So so I'm thinking Austin Kaut might be joining the Cannon sooner than I wanted him to because I really wanted to see Penn State, home state, all that,
right.
See them go far again like they did. Unfortunately, got shafted last year in a game against Yale. But if that's the one position I'm very worried about for Boston. But if Austin Sparky Kaut, if you will, Sparky, everybody called him Sparky. I coached with him 2 years ago. Well, he coached for the same program I did, and I got to know him. So like with him coming in, that'll be a big step up. Because obviously he got the Team USA tryout. Unfortunately, got cut, but that's possibly due to school or something like that. So, or obviously you're going up against like Drew Adams and Jesse Schwartzman and Kip Turner and John Galloway. It's going to be tough trying to make that squad, no doubt.
Yeah. You know what's funny though about Cott is I looked at his numbers. Some of these numbers can be deceiving. Real quick note: he's not playing that well. He's like barely a hair above 50% on his save percentage. I don't know if it's because of graduation, how much they lost in Penn State on defense, or if he's just not playing that well.
I really haven't caught a Penn State. I wanted to catch a Penn State game this year. I couldn't. I watched the Notre Dame game, and Notre Dame in a sense shot themselves in the foot. But Sparky didn't play bad. Watching when they played Albany, watching that goal from the Thompsons, it was just like, you've got to be kidding me.
Those guys.
With the, and I really think the defense may have had something to do with it this year. It really, obviously every team is different every single year. You're not going to have, I don't think you're really going to have like that same strength where you usually do, obviously. Right. But that's just guys stepping up and whatnot. But, Sparky plays his game. If he's over 50%, look at the strength of our schedule this year, too. And not even having an AQ. It kind of, I think the CAA kind of screwed him over mentally with doing that.
Yeah.
Because like you're playing as an independent. Last year they won. No, they didn't win the CAA last year, did they?
No, they just got on AQ because they were so good.
Yeah, Towson won the CAA last year. Yeah. Then that's it's kind of tough to it's really gonna, I don't know, Penn State. That's college. That's you and what's his name on Saturdays.
Yeah, that's me and John on Saturdays, which you can catch Saturday mornings when we feel like getting up and doing everything. Yeah. And if you missed it, you can catch our special Easter edition on 420 and Game of Thrones. We have a little Game of Thrones power rankings towards the end of the show. So, yeah, you can catch that after you listen to this, of course. Listen to this first. But anyway, let's get to Rochester. Another team that's kind of weird because I don't know what was happening this offseason. They took a talent plunge by trading every single good player away and kept the only two redeemable players in John Ranigan and maybe Rob Rotans, who they got from Duke. And they have a solid defense in terms of Joel White and John Lade and John Galloway, of course, in goal, who made Team USA and really impressed me when I was watching him in Team USA. That was, I thought he probably would be the starter. One interesting note, while we're looking at the whole roster, and what I meant was Dave Lawson, not Rob Rotans, both guys from Duke, though, is John Kemp is on the roster. Really good Notre Dame. Yeah, he's on the active. Or, I don't know if he's on. Yeah, he's on the active roster. Well, actually, there's a bunch of them. He may be on the practice squad, but either way, he's on the team.
Yeah, I mean, you got Jason LaShawn in that. You got John Kemp in possibility. John Galloway. And that's it. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, if John Galloway goes to Team USA, it's going to be hard for him to, it'll be hard for any of the Team USA members to really, I don't want to say commit to the season, but, obviously they're not going to play the entire season because you're going to want to know who's going to be your starter earlier in the season with, guys like John Galloway and Drew Adams going to Team USA. So obviously John Kemp's not a bad choice, but obviously Jason LaShawn has, some more experience than Kemp does at the MLL level.
Yeah, but this team's weird because they stripped their talent, but like we were saying, they're getting a lot of talent from college too, or like we were talking about privately before we went on. Is this team is actually going to be pretty solid, especially on attack. They get both Thompson brothers, so 2/3 of that like record-setting offense, as well as Jordan Wolf, who you could say is the best, attackman. I mean, I don't know. Is he going to win the Twarton? I have no idea. We'll talk about that on Saturday as well. But, I mean, he put up 6-7 points. He's Duke's main player. For an attack unit that looked really weak, now it looks pretty darn good and pretty darn young. And, obviously they lose Strebel and Crotty, but they have a really young midfield with Lawson and Rannigan, as well as their defense is pretty young. They might not be as bad as we think.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely not going to be as bad as we think. That's something that Rochester needed to do. They needed to change something drastically, and they did it. I mean, you got rid of Ned Crotty, you got rid of Matt Strebel, you got rid of your two top offensive players. But in return, look who you got.
You got Grant Catalino and Mark Matthews, guys who haven't played much in the last. Yeah, I mean, Grant Catalino is good, but he just hasn't played ever. He's played like 4 games in like 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, he did really well when he was with Rochester, though.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying, like he just hasn't played, so it just doesn't make sense unless he's like, I'm not playing for anybody else except Rochester, and like do one of those things. Yeah, that's what I mean. Can you imagine that? Like, he's, like, pulling the strings, like, I'm not going to play unless I play with Rochester. That's it. And it's like, all right, whatever. Like, fine, just sit on the inactive list. I don't care.
Get the kid a bit.
Yeah, I don't have to pay you. Whatever.
But, and like I said, they had to do something drastic. They had to, and they did. I mean, they got Grant Catalino, Mark Matthews, who, like you said, haven't played that much. Matthews couldn't play that much because, you had to split time with him and Matt Gibson on top of Tommy Palasek and Rob Pennell.
Yeah.
Well, you got 2 lefty attackmen that are phenomenal players that, obviously you can't play 2 players at the same position.
Yeah. But he's so good. That's the thing. Like, him and Crowley just lit up Stony Brook. They put Stony Brook on the map, and ever since they graduated, Stony Brook sucked.
I know, so, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
But, it's what's going to happen, But I'm really excited to see, the Thompsons and Jordan Wolf, Lower Marion, PA. What's up? Got to give credit.
Shout out the 310 or 756 or whatever area code you are. Give them a shout out.
Hey, shout out.
That's where you yell the numbers, Brendan.
I don't know area code. I don't pay attention. I just go.
The 973. I mean, that's Jersey. It's like North Jersey, all.
Yeah, well, that's the dirty Jersey. Come on.
What, they have like different like area codes for each single suburb in Philly?
I mean, there's 484, there's 202, there's 610, but right now I'm looking at it 610. So, out to the 610.
Give a shout out to the 610.
Giving a shout out to 610. What up?
All right, Brandon. So we think, Rochester is just a lot of transition still kind of going on there, but we are interested in what the future may hold for this team because they may struggle early, but kind of maybe like Ohio, they may be having their arrow point upwards, trending upwards towards the end of the season. Let's go to our Final Four. We've hit the Final Four. Believe it or not, with all our rambling and terrible jokes and shout-outs, we're going to hit Denver, who ended the season on a very sour note after registering the only undefeated record in MLL history. They now find themselves at a crossroads, kind of. They get a new coach in there. They traded away Mundorf to the Bayhawks and made them incredible. And then they also traded away McGill from Syracuse. And now, maybe their offense doesn't look as good as it did last year. I don't really know. I mean, they got Matt Gibson. They have Cameron Flint, rookie attackman. They got John Grant Jr. back in return from Chesapeake, who's still, for however old he is, he's still alive and kicking, put up 33 points last year. Obviously, they have Chris Bocklett, who had the most points, tied for first with Kevin Crowley, most points in the MLL. Terry Kimmerer returns. Eric Law, who had an outstanding year, and as you and I both witnessed at the MLL Championship weekend, scored every single goal for Denver, which was like 7 or 8 or 9. They also bring back the Defender of the Year in Lee Zink and the Goalie of the Year in Jesse Schwartzman. But their playoff struggles were noted when they dropped in the first round to a young Charlotte team. So where does Denver go from here? I mean, how do they replace Mundorf?
They did pick up John Grant Jr.
Yeah. I mean, they do have Jeremy Sieverts, too, and Drew Snyder, so not all hope is lost. But, Mundorf had, 50 points last year? He had 41 points. I mean, granted, Drew Snyder had 46, Sieverts had 44, but, still, they lost a guy who's helped them to one of the best offenses in the league.
Yeah, I mean, he almost got his head ripped off last year. That was ridiculous when that happened. It's honestly, you can't replace Brendan Mundorf. You can't do it.
Do you think a guy like Eric Snow steps into that role, or
No.
is it just spread out through the rest of those guys? Chris Bocklett, Sieverts, Snyder, all those guys.
It's probably going to be spread out. Honestly, I don't see Snow. Obviously, he's not. I don't think Snow's the caliber player that obviously Brendan Mundorf is. Right. I mean, Brendan Mundorf has spent his time in the league, but I don't think Snow's going to be that guy.
Snow or Law? Sam Snow or Eric Law?
I thought you said Snow earlier.
No, Eric Law. I mean, Sam Snow really didn't play last year.
No, I thought you said Snow for some reason.
Yeah, it's all good. Long week. It's only Wednesday. Hump day.
Hey, I'm used to seeing all the snow on the friggin' field, man. What do you want me to do?
Hey, Carl, what day is it?
Hey guys, guess what day it is?
It's hump day. Woo woo.
You know what? Eric Law has definitely stepped into his shoes. Eric Law could replace him, but at the same time, he really can't because he's not. I don't think he's as. I don't want to say he's not as versatile because he has like that. Has like that indoor style play.
Yeah, he's one. I think he's one of the best finishers in the league in only his second year. Honestly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, he had 9 points or 9 goals alone.
Yeah, he had like 9 goals all to himself. Or no, something like that. Because
you're not gonna like. I mean, don't get me wrong. The ball took a lucky bounce his way a couple times for those 9 goals. But,
right.
At the same time, I mean, he's played with Brendan Mundorf, and now he gets to play with John Grant Jr.
Exactly.
I mean, in your lifetime, when would you at that point in your life? When would you ever think you would get to play with 2 of the greatest guys to ever play the game?
Yeah, dude has a good career ahead of him, and defensively,
he's got an amazing career. Plus, he's got to play with Zach Greer.
Yeah, exactly, and that's funny because Zach Greer was one of the best college players. Then he went to Bryant in that 5th year with Coach Mike Pressler, and then he didn't fall off the map, but it was kind of hard to explain what happened to him. Now he's in the MLL, and I thought he was going to be really good, really, really good. and he's kind of been like, just a nice role player for Denver. Not really like a star like I thought he'd be, if that makes sense.
I mean, every team has their role player. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but coming out of college, he was one of the best attackers. Like him or Danowski were 1 and like 1A coming out of Duke.
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I don't know. It's just kind of puzzling to me for some reason. Maybe I'm just being a little jerk.
I mean, he did sign with the Lizards, and then kind of like went on hiatus.
Yeah, that could be it too.
I don't know. I think it was like work or something. So I mean, obviously, if you do go on like a hiatus, like we did with our show.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it hasn't affected us.
Right.
But I mean, skill wise, it does affect you. Like it. I mean, yeah, it's like riding a bike when you do certain things, but at the same time,
But you can't replicate game speed.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't. Like you need to be at that level, obviously, at all times.
Right.
And that's where I'm really hoping to see the sport. This league, let alone the sport, go get to that caliber. Like NFL and all that. But
but that's a world's away.
Dreams are dreams, and hopefully one day the world will realize that lacrosse is the world sport, not baseball or soccer.
Or it's just a fun sport in general. I mean, I don't know.
I was talking to.
It's more appealing to watch than 5 hours of baseball.
Yep.
God, like don't get me wrong, I like baseball and I like the Yankees and stuff, but games, they pitch, they take 30, 40, 50 seconds until the next pitch, then they touch their junk, they adjust their batting gloves, they,
each other on the butts.
Yeah, I mean, like, how much time do they really need?
They gotta adjust their gloves every 30 seconds.
Yeah, they gotta adjust their belt, they gotta readjust everything, they gotta get back in the batter's box, they gotta touch the rosin bag, like, let's go here, man, like, come on. They should have a shot clock for pitching.
They really should.
God. Anyway, one of the most notable things, though, is the addition of Ken Clausen, who, when that first happened in the supplemental draft, I was talking to you, I was like, Ken Clausen was a great defender for Virginia. Now, what happened to him, Brendan? And you were like, oh, well, 2 ACL injuries. And so do you think he comes back and plays a lot this year, or do you think he's still rehabbing? Like, I don't know. That's the last question for me on this team. Because otherwise, look, they have the goalie of the year, defenseman of the year, a great attack. I mean, they could still make a run.
They can make a run, and they probably will.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been in the playoffs, I think, every year.
It probably makes sense. I mean, they sell out like every year.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that like New York needs to realize. That's something the Florida Lounge are going to need to realize. That's something the Charlotte Hounds, I think, have a really good fan base too.
Yeah.
And Rochester needs to wake the heck up.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it helps because it was kind of new and it was kind of growing, and they use Invesco Field, and I don't know what goes on there.
Yeah,
but
I mean, Denver's not really one of the more active towns, if you will. I mean, it's Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
You're by the you're up in the Rockies, like
a lot of great skiing.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. Skiing out there, but then when skiing season's over, what do you really have?
You have really nice weather.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If I could live out in Denver, I would.
Yeah.
Because you got the big old ranches out there and everything like that. Like I'd love to go.
I don't know. In the summertime, it's really nice. I know. I don't know. I have friends.
Don't get me wrong. I'd love to go for a hike up in the Rockies. Freeze my butt off in the middle of summer.
Exactly.
But like the Denver Outlaws team hit at the right time, which was I mean, don't get me wrong. Like look at the college team. Look at Denver University. They're a phenomenal team.
Yeah, number 3 in the nation.
And they make the playoffs pretty much every season. And then you have the Colorado Mammoth, and then you have the Colorado Avalanche, and then the Denver Broncos, and then the Denver Nuggets. Like they have, it's a sports town. It's not people are like, oh, Denver, Colorado, what they do, like I was. But it's a sports town. People thrive on the sports out there, and that's why their team does so good. Whereas you come to Philly, and you have the Wings, and then you have the Eagles and Phillies and Flyers, and the Philadelphia Union, and it's kind of like the Philly fan base. Every city's fan. I mean, you play in Philly. If you don't play well, you're gonna get booed on one play.
Yeah, you guys are honestly the worst fan base ever. You really are. There are two fan bases I cannot stand, and it's probably more because I'm in New York, but also because you guys treat your star players like crap. Honestly, Philly fans are terrible, and Red Sox fans are just obnoxious. And I'm sure you feel the same way about New York.
I agree with you on the Boston fans.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you there because I grew up in New York, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But I'm sure everyone thinks the same way about New York, but it's just unbearable to hear. Like Philly fans are always bragging about how great their sports teams are and how they're going to do this year. This is a side tangent before we get to the rest of the teams.
No, I got
How
you.
many championships have you won? Like, you have one Phillies championship, and that's it. Your football team's never won anything. Your basketball team last time they won was 1983.
I think 3 Mile Island was going on.
Yeah, it was 1983 or 4 with Dr. J and Charles Barkley, Moses Malone.
Yeah, Dr. J.
Yeah, and your baseball team set a record for the most losses in a franchise with 10,000 like 3 or 4 years ago. So I don't want to hear it from you.
Our basketball team, all right? We tied it.
Yeah, and your basketball team not only had almost had the longest losing streak, but you guys also have the worst record ever for a franchise. So that's my piece on Philly. You guys should never talk until all your sports win at least one championship.
You want to hear my thing?
Yeah.
I'm a Steelers fan. I'm a Knicks fan. Yes, I like the Phillies and the Flyers and the Wings.
Yeah, you're just weird.
I am weird. I'm a mutt. What can I say?
Yeah, I'm like
I lived in New York for 15 years. Love the Steelers then. So
yeah.
you know.
I'm all New York, New Jersey, and my only tie to Maryland, which is my college team, is because my parents and my uncle went there, so that's like my tie for a college team. So that's it. But anyway, getting back to lacrosse on our wild tangent. Florida Launch, a.k.a. Yeah, those Jersey jerks. Guido, Jersey, hey, fist pump. Yeah. Anyway, Florida Launch, now, or formerly known as the Hamilton Nationals, but they're going to go back there. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, they moved down to Florida. They add Casey Powell to their team. They bring back Kevin Crowley. Tucker Durkin returns, who was the only rookie last year to be on the All-Pro team. Cody Jameson comes back. Garrett Thule, Team USA guy, who was really good. Brett Queener, really good goalie. They added Chaz Woodson in the draft, in the supplemental draft. The MLL inactive, though, list. And this is probably where you can get into a little NLL stuff, not to steal away from anything else, but MLL inactive list, according to our InLacrosseWeTrust.com page here. Jeremy Thompson, defenseman. Jordan Hall, midi. Stephen Keogh, attackman. Practice squad. Bryce Dabbs. Cody Jameson. Billy Eisenreich. Scott Cahill. Milton Lyles. And Zach Palmer. What do you make of that?
NLL.
All of it, right?
Yeah, like literally all of the NLL.
Yeah, all right. That's what I figured. But, just thought I asked. By the way, what's going on with the Gausny brothers? Roman and Cameron, they're on the active roster, but I feel like they've only played like 5 games.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the Launch are doing. Like,
Did they not want to travel last year? I guess to Hamilton. I mean, I don't know. That's like,
I'm guessing.
Yeah, like I don't know. I don't know where they were from originally. I mean, they played at Lehigh, but it's still like a trek kind of. But I mean, still, I don't know. You figured they play in more games. I mean, they were both considered for Team USA. They put Lehigh on the map. Great young players. So that I don't know. That's just my question.
I don't know. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, I guess that's the reaction. But interesting is
you gotta do what you gotta do to try.
Yeah, is the fact that they traded Brody Merrill away for P.T. Ritchie, who they get in return. Obviously, they have Poppleton at Faceoff X, who is going to be really good. And like I said, Casey Powell returns, but he only played 3 games last year.
He also helped the team to the championship. So
yeah, once he decided to play out of his hiatus.
Let's just put it at that.
Yeah, but the thing is like me and you both called it. It wasn't like it was literally writing on the wall. Like as soon as they moved to Florida and he was making all these announcements, like we knew he was going to end up there one way or another. because he coaches down there. My biggest question is how many games does he actually play? Like, does he follow through on this and be like, all right, I coach down there, like, I'm going to be full 100% into this, or is he, like, going to do the same thing as last year? Like, oh, I'm just going to come back if we're in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Let's be serious. He tried to put a team down in Orlando, the Orlando Titans, and then, that failed. So, I mean, I'm really hoping this takes off because, I mean, look at the teams you have down in Florida now. You have Jacksonville, you have Tampa, you have Florida Tech, you have Lynn University.
Yeah.
Like, you have a lot of teams popping up in Florida now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a big plus that they have a team down there.
Yeah, and they have one of the top high school teams in the nation, St. Andrews, that produced the Bernhardt brothers.
What's up, Andrew?
Yeah. It was almost as good as your launching off thing that you just made. Because the team's named Florida Launch, and you use the rocket ship analysis. Anyway, bad joke aside, what a terrible name for a team. Last note on that. Like, what a terrible name for a team. The Florida Launch, like, you couldn't have thought of anything better.
I mean, they could have gone with the Miami Marlins or something like that.
And put a weird statue in the back that lights up every time they hit a home run for their 15 fans. That looks like a clown face, like something, like, skee ball? It looks like something where you throw, like, a skee ball into it and it lights up. It's literally terrible. All right, last two teams in the final. Here we go.
Let's go on.
Charlotte Hounds and Chesapeake Bayhawks. Let's do these two together because we've been doing this for a while, and we want to get to power rankings, predictions, and MVP type stuff, which is a little more enticing for our listeners if they've somehow stayed with us for an hour. Anyway, Charlotte Hounds, one of the surprising teams last year, making it all the way to the championship game. They really put themselves on the map with the way they played. Gittleman played well in goal. They had 7 or 8 rookies really step up for them. Mason Pulley in between the lines, your boy from the whatever it was, 610. Michael McCormick, Yale defenseman, also played on the wing a lot. Mike Sawyer on attack with Jake Tripucka at midfield. Matt White was a good finisher for them to go along with the fiery Ryan Young. Jeff Schneider was huge for them at the faceoff X. Flanagan is a stud defensively for them. Kevin Drew, one of the better defensive middies. And obviously, Matt Danowski returns on attack. Their captain, their main guy. So, one thing before I ask you the question is the most surprising thing on this roster, according to our In Lacrosse We Trust MLL roster look at the teams, was the fact that Adam Gittleman and Jeff Snyder are both inactive to start. So now Pierce Bassett, Johns Hopkins goalie, is going to start that first game. What do you make of that?
I'm excited.
That's it?
I'm excited for it.
I think that's a huge problem for Pierce Bassett.
Okay. Pierce Bassett was great for Hopkins, and
not last year. He was terrible.
What?
Yeah, he was like 50%, man. There's a reason why they're playing so much better with Eric Schneider in net. Eric Schneider is the only difference essentially from last year's team, and they have less talent.
Well, let's put it this way. You know what? But I mean, you also have Mike Gable though, and Mike Gable played phenomenal in that one game he played for Ohio.
In that one game. Key word, that one game.
Yep. After that, it was Scotty Rogers and Brian Phipps that came back. So I mean, Gable kind of got the shaft there. But I mean, Gittleman's probably on the inactive because Harvard's playing friggin' insane right now. I mean, they beat Cornell.
That's true. That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, I mean that's the reason why Gittleman's probably not gonna be there. And obviously Snyder's team in the NLL, and he plays NLL because he's Jeff Snyder, and he didn't play with Charlotte until the last 2 games of the regular season last year.
Yeah, was it when he was active and at the MLL Championship weekend?
I think it was. I think he might have been activated the game before.
just get the arms and legs and feet warm.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Yeah, I'm gonna use this as a little trial run, and then we're just gonna get right to business, and I'm just gonna own it at the X.
I mean, think about it though. If you're that good at face-offs, like you're just gonna walk up and be like, okay, give me the ball.
I hate those guys. I wish there were less talented guys like that. Those kind of people are what ruin their. Those people that don't try just come up and steal your thunder.
Yeah, it's just like crap. You know, I mean, you're like, I mean, you got Greg Garellian who's doing the Face-Off Academy with Jerry Raganese and all those guys. They're all phenomenal guys who fight the hardest. They work hard and blah blah blah. And I'm not saying Jeff Snyder doesn't.
Right.
I mean, I just don't know what he does off the field.
Yeah.
And he's one of the best face-off guys, I want to say, ever.
Maybe. I mean, he's going to be Team Canada. You pointed it out a lot when we were talking about Team USA. He's going to be the thorn in the side of Team USA because as he plays for Team Canada.
Yeah, because he took one face-off guy like a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, well, we had our reservations about that. We could go on a different tangent for that.
Yes, we could.
Yes, we could.
We probably will one day.
I'm sure we will because we always go on tangents.
Of course.
Anyway. What I really want to talk about is the amount of young talent that Charlotte's coming in with. We did this with the college draft when we reviewed it, but they're essentially Team ACC plus Loyola. They drafted Casey Carroll, defenseman, who is second on the team in calls takeaways. Mike Chanenchuk, huge midfielder out of Maryland, who can break down any defense. DiNapoli, top guy from Towson. Josh Dion from Duke. Michael Earhart, Maryland. Fowler, Duke, face-off man, which really helps them, especially with Jeff Snyder being inactive. Chris Hipps, defenseman from Duke. Pat Laconi re-teams up with teammate, or reunites, I should say, not re-teams up. Reunites with Josh Hawkins to make up 2/3 of Loyola's national championship defensive midfield. By the way, he has 27 takeaways in college for a short stick D-midi. That's incredible. Yeah, anyway, Henry Lobb, defenseman, Duke. Zach Lasko, midfielder, Penn. And Justin Ward, attackman out of Loyola. So you essentially have 5 major players from Loyola's national title team because now you reunite Justin Ward with Mike Sawyer and Josh Hawkins and who was I looking at? Yeah, I guess that's it. But, I mean, that team is really awesome. And also you have Joe Cummings on attack, who they traded for. Because they traded away Pete Polian, who they lost, to Chesapeake, which was a head-scratching move. But somehow they got younger and better. So, bottom line, this team's on the rise.
This team, I don't even know where to start with this team about, obviously you said it, they're the ACC Hounds. It's not even a question of if they're going to be Charlotte or not.
They're the ACC Greyhounds.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, eventually, you're going to have players like Michael Earhart join. You're going to have players like Thomas DiNapoli out of Towson join. You're going to have players, Mike Chanenchuk, Casey Carroll, Josh Dion, Chris Hipps. You mentioned some of these guys before. I mean, eventually, Snyder's probably going to, take some time off like he did last year and not come in until, the end of the season when they make their run. And, Brendan Fowler's going to take over halfway through, at the face-off, when he ends up, joining the team if he does. So, I mean, this team's stacked. No matter what they do, they're going to be stacked. Whether, they pick from their, eventual, practice squad or, if they... Because, I mean, you're not going to have all those guys on the sideline in the first game. I don't think so.
Yeah, no. I think you're going to... Not at all. Because Ward, Chanenchuk, Earhart, all those guys are going to be playing deep into Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where to go with, what to say about this team because they have that much talent everywhere. Yeah. It's not just one spot. It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's like a surplus of talent. And speaking of talent,
it's like acne.
Yeah, it's like popping up everywhere. It's like a prepubescent kid, or a kid just hitting puberty actually, and pimples everywhere.
Hey,
it's crazy.
Face.
Yeah. Hey, you with the face.
Hey, you guy.
Speaking of a surplus of talent, Chesapeake Bay Hawks.
Oh, God.
What do you do after winning back-to-back or MLL championships? You add more weapons everywhere and become probably the best team ever assembled. Right? I mean, right? Am I right?
What are you talking about? Why did that just happen?
I think who tweeted it out? We did this like on our first or second show. I read a tweet out. It was somebody like on the show. Oh, it was Ryan O'Flanagan from the Hound. Speak of the devil. He tweeted out, who approves these moves in the MLL office? Because they have Joe Walters, who they got for like nothing. They have Drew Westervelt teamed up with him. Mundorf. I mean, they get Brian McGill they just traded their own draft picks for like Delente. They have Matt McCready still. They have Michael Kimmel. They have Jovan Miller, who whatever they get out of him is a surplus. Ben Hunt. The list goes on and on. And then their defense is ridiculous too. They trade away Michael Simon, but who cares? They have Michael Evans. They have Barney Ehrman. They have Spalina. They have Kyle Dixon at midfield. They have Burns and Steve Brooks as short stick middies, as well as the do-it-all guy in Pizer, as well as why am I blanking on him? He's one of the best guys, Matt Abbott.
Yep.
Like, this team has no holes.
No, the only hole that they're going to have is
the one in their trophy case.
The only hole they're going to have is when Team USA comes in contact. That's
right.
The only thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, but once they get everybody back.
They also picked up Jack Forster out of Penn State. He was amazing in high school when we played him when he was at LaSalle. Like, he was amazing, and then he goes to Penn State and he's even great there after his injuries that he suffered, and then he gets picked up. Like, it's not fair.
It really isn't. I mean, there's just no surprise. I don't see how any of the guys they drafted. They didn't have too many draft picks because of all the moves they made.
No, they had like 3.
Yeah, they had Dylan Levings, face-off man out of Yale, who's having a solid season but nothing crazy. They added Pat Kiernan, LSM from Navy, who's good. Alex Love, attackman from Hobart. Brendan Ben, who can finish the ball. Kevin Cernuto, who has 40 points for St. John's. Mark McNeil, short stick D-midi for UNC. But I don't see a lot of these guys getting a lot of time at all.
No. Well, when we were talking to Coach Cottle,
yeah,
prior to the draft and whatnot, I asked him. I was like, I just threw it out there. I was like, what do you think about the Thompsons? Blah blah blah. And he's like, well, we want local guys. And, they're great players and whatnot. And I understand that. But
that's like half the battle in these MLL rosters is getting local guys. Like that's what's wrong.
That's something that they wanted to focus on, which is understandable. Like 2 hours away is probably the max that you want for a guy.
Yeah, it's understandable, but it's wrong. Like that's probably why there's so much imbalance as well. Because like Casey Powell forced his way into freaking Florida because of the fact that he plays there. Like,
yeah, I know.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, but I mean, he was talking about finding a finisher, and I understand that because Casey Powell was really in a sense a finisher and whatnot. John Grant Jr. was a finisher, but now he's gone. I mean, they're both the two top guys to ever play the game are now gone from your team. I mean, yeah, you pick up Mundorf. You have Drew Westervelt. Westervelt's going to be pissed off going into this season because he got cut from Team USA. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But then, he was talking about a finisher, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, who is he going to get for a finisher? And then they announced Brandon Ben. I'm like, son of a gun! I totally forgot about that guy. And that's kind of like, in a sense, if one of us aren't thinking about it, it's like, is he really going to be that effective? But at the same time, I was watching him throughout the season. I mean, he had the game winner against Ohio State, and I was watching the Villanova game earlier tonight, and he had a goal from the first quarter that I saw. So I mean, like, it's not like he's not getting, it's not like he's not putting away his 1 or 2 goals or 3 points a game.
Yeah.
It's he just needs to be more effective in a sense.
Yeah, he does. But that's really it. I mean, there weren't really too many surprises from all the final rosters. I think more of the surprises will come once the influx of the college players come in and they start to release some of the guys who they took in the supplemental draft, because those are usually the casualties. That or the guys who somehow get injured. But you know, a lot of good players are coming into the MLL, and it'll be interesting to see who gets cut. But now, the moment we've all been waiting for is prediction time, where you guys can yell at us and tell us how dumb we are because we picked the wrong people at the beginning of the season for MVP. Our power rankings were terrible. Anything like that, you can tweet at us at MLL Roundtable, at BStout631, and at Goldieberg. Tell us how bad we are. Brendan, let's start it off. I gave it out at the beginning, so. So anyway, power rankings 1 through 8. What you got to start the season?
Charlotte at number 1.
Ooh, I like. Keep going.
Charlotte number 1. Number 2, probably Chesapeake.
Okay.
Number 3, oh my God, almost said it. Almost said Long Island. New York.
Yep.
Number 4, Denver.
Okay.
I mean, same 4 as last year. I think I had.
Yeah, just different
Number
order.
5. Number 5, I'm gonna go. Oh my God, what do I got left? I got Florida, Ohio, Rochester, and Boston. No, number 5, I'm going Rochester.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, number 5, I'm going Rochester. Number 6, I am going
Is it Boston? Is it Ohio?
Ohio.
Okay.
And number 7, I'm going. I'll go Boston, and number 8, I'm going Florida, because I don't know what the heck Florida's doing. I really don't.
All right. So I'm going to disagree with you on like everything more or less, but we can argue. But this is what we do.
Why wouldn't you just make it easy? Come on.
Because life is not easy, Brendan. I thought you should have learned that before.
Oh, trust me, I learned that plenty of times.
Number 1, Chesapeake, defending champs. Like I said, the only hole in their on their team is the one in their trophy case. Number 2, Charlotte. I love what they're bringing in. They might lose a couple games early on because of that Gittleman thing, which is a little troubling. Just because, you know, he's coaching at Harvard. But once Gittleman comes back, then I think they'll be okay. Number 3, I'm going with New York. I'll agree with you on 3. New York, yeah. Because I really like their offense, but once we started looking at that defense more exclusively, okay, spoiler alert, but not really. I was going to say Drew Adams for goalie of the year for my pick, but I'm starting to backpedal right now because of what I see with their defense.
What are you going to say? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Because of their defense? That's why
Yes.
he's goalie of the year, because
Yes.
of his defense.
Yes, but no one's going to like his stats, and that's why he's not going to be goalie of the year.
Well, you know what? People need to get over it and realize what the hell the real problem is.
Well, no one actually watches the game except for like, you know, lacrosse fans. So no, like, you know, and like Quinn Kessenich who hates face-off guys.
Yes, of course he does.
Yeah, whatever. We'll go on a separate tangent on that. Number 4, I will agree with you again on Denver because they still have so much offense and they still bring back all that defense too, and you know, goalie of the year, and Schwartzman is he's like Peyton Manning, regular season goalie of the year, playoffs, not so much. Yeah, that sound too. All right, who else do I have here? I have Florida, Boston, Rochester, and Ohio. I think Florida still has, you know, they still have Queener. Their defense is a little iffy to me, but I still like the weapons on offense. I'm assuming Casey Powell stays true to his word and just plays like every game. If that's the case, their offense is going to be really good. They're going to replace with Joe Walters, maybe even upgrade. And that's hard for me to say because I'm a Maryland guy and I love Joe Walters. And side note tangent, 2001 Final Four, I got Ryan Powell to sign my Maryland Terps hat. That's just a side tangent that no one really cares about. Number 6.
You're putting me to sleep saying that.
Yeah. Number 6. I don't know, man. Like, I kind of like what Ohio has going on. I'm going to go for Ohio at 6. You know what? Damned if I do, damned if I don't. Ohio number 6. I like all their additions on midfield. Now this team looks like a real MLL team. Like a really good MLL team. Do not do not take them lightly. They will be good this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they make it as a 4 seed, honestly. Rochester, I'll put at the end. Boston and Rochester will become very close with that 7 and 8 spot, though. It'll be very close because Boston, there's too many moving parts around there. Yeah, they bring in Brody Merrill. The Matt Pasquet thing, I don't know what to read into that. I don't know. I know he has he had testicular cancer, and he came back from that to have an MVP season. So credit to him. Back in 2011, I don't know. I don't think anything's coming back from that, but I don't know if whatever happens there. But also I don't know. I just don't like what's going on in the midfield too. Jordan Burke really worries me in net. That defense is still shaky to me. Rochester, too many young guys coming in. They'll kind of be like Ohio, but the future's bright for them. Now let's get to the really, really cool predictions. MVP, goalie of the year, defenseman of the year, attackman/midfielder of the year. Give it to me, Brendan.
What was that first one?
Goalie of the year, defenseman of the year, any order, whatever you got.
Drew Adam, goalie of the year.
Okay.
Okay, people need to realize why. Because he may not have the best stellar defense in front of him, but their team relies on Drew so much that he just does his thing. And that's why he's going to be goalie of the year again. Alright? Defenseman of the year is tough. Lee Zink got it last year, and I think he is still the number one defender going into this season. Someone that might steal his thunder could be Tucker Durkin.
Okay. Yep. Keep going.
Because he's on that Florida team, and he's meant for the pros. Okay, they said it when he was in college, and he's saying it now. Like he's meant for the pros. The way he plays, he's even made for international play, for crying out loud. With how physical he is, with how big he is, with how quick he is. That's how
Completely agree. Continue though. I want to give my official announcement, but keep going.
Defender of the year, I'm giving it to Tucker Durkin.
Okay.
I got it. I have to.
Okay. You don't have to. No one's putting a gun to your head. It's just shaming on Twitter from our 44 followers.
Hey, it's okay. Those 44 followers, maybe 43 will hate me and one will love me.
Just that one. You just need one.
Hey, I need one to keep my back. That's all I need. We'll be best friends at the end of the day.
Exactly.
All right, who was the other ones that we needed?
Midi or attacker, coach of the year, one of them. Most improved team. I mean, just give me some crazy predictions. I don't even care if it's like guy who's gonna catch the most bench this year.
Oh, well, I'm gonna go Matt Abbott.
For what, midfielder of the year?
Midfielder of the year.
Okay.
That kid just does so much work, offense and defense. He deserves it.
Yeah.
Not even that. Player of the year. I'm giving it to Matt Abbott for player of the year.
MVP?
MVP.
Yeah? Wow. Okay, that's a big pick. That's bold. That's really bold. Because
MVP.
it always goes to the guy who puts up the points, and he has not put up points, but I agree with you. One of the best all-around middies.
I don't give a crap about points.
I know. I'm just saying that's what everyone judges it on. It's points.
You know what? Well, then people need to get their heads out of their butts.
Well, they're lazy. We're fat, lazy Americans.
Like, if people really rely on the point system, then they need to go and redefine their definition of MVP.
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah.
I want the hardest worker. I want the guy out there that's gonna go bleed out of his nose and come back, be like, Coach, give me a tissue, blow his nose, and get back out on the field.
I mean, bleeding out of his nose isn't that big of a deal.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
It's like a hockey guy taking a slap shot to the face and coming right back out.
Right,
That's the kind of
exactly.
guy I want.
Exactly.
And Matt Abbott is definitely it.
All right, and so he's like your midfielder, MVP,
He's my MVP.
and midfielder. What's your attackman?
My attackman?
All right, drummer boy, just give me your attackman.
I'm going to be the drummer boy for Christmas this year.
God.
See, Mundorf is on Chesapeake. Grant Jr. is on Denver. Casey Powell's in Florida.
Joe Walters is on Chesapeake.
Joe Walters is on Chesapeake.
Kevin Crowley.
He's a midfielder.
Kevin Crowley.
Midfielder. Well, I'll give Kevin Crowley my MVP.
Okay.
No, sorry. Let me reverse it. Right,
makes no sense, but continue.
Yeah, attackman of the year. Oh God, there's so many people.
There's so many good attackmen, right?
There really is. Like,
because that's what the sport is. That's what the sport of lacrosse is. It's all attackmen. You see it in college. You see it in high school. You see it all the way through.
Yeah, because I mean, you have Palasek on New York. You have Pinnell on New York. Then you go and as soon as then you have like.
Do you take Chris Bachlet, who had 55 points last year, or Danowski, 49 points, 6 2-point goals as well?
Yeah, I know. Like that's what I'm saying. Like there's so many people. It's unfair. And then like you're not even involving the college kids coming through.
Right, exactly.
I mean, you've got Jordan Wolf that's coming up, who's the fastest attackman in the college game right now. Then you got the Thompson kids who are just like lacrosse's lacrosse God's gift to Earth.
Yeah.
There's just so friggin' many. It's unfair. It's unfair. I don't even want to pick one because I would.
Because you'll be wrong. I mean, we're made to be wrong. That's what doing predictions is about.
I don't want to pick one because if I'm right, I'm gonna probably kick myself in the head. What the hell? Like, how did you do that?
If I'm right on any of these predictions, the next day I'm gonna go in and file for a lottery ticket.
Exactly. No, seriously. The next, if I'm right on any of these picks, I'm going into one of my jobs and I am quitting.
I won't do that because I am not that bold and do not have the balls to do that. My balls have not dropped yet, but.
Okay, I probably won't because it's money. But
yeah.
I may just be crazy enough that day to do it.
Exactly.
I may just feel. I may, my confidence may just skyrocket. I might just be like, you know what? I'm out of here. See you later.
Drop the microphone and leave.
No, I'll just drop something. I don't even know.
So give me your attackman. I want to make my predictions. Taking like 5 minutes. It should be something that's quick. Come on.
I can't. I don't know. You know what? Logan Schuss.
Okay, that's not a bad pick. That's like a really good pick. He had 35 points in 11 games, and he led the team.
But I couldn't.
In his second year too, he could be good.
The box. You know this.
Here's my guys. Goalie of the year. It's not going to be Schwartzman. It's going to be John Galloway.
Good pick.
Of the Rochester Rattlers. He really impressed me in Team USA. He made the team. You and I both loved him. We thought he should be the starter between him and Drew Adams. And they actually, ironically, face off in the first week. But I think he uses that as momentum. And he's one of the best clearing goalies that we've ever seen. Goalie of the year. Defenseman of the year, you took my pick. I'm going to agree with you, Tucker Durkin. He was the only rookie to make the All-Pro team. That says something. And I think they're going to, you know how there's a little voter wariness when a guy wins a lot of consecutive awards, like a lot of Defenseman of the Year stuff, and guys are like, oh, well, we can't give it to him again, so we're going to give it to this guy. That's what's going to happen with Tucker Durkin.
Absolutely.
Midfielder of the year.
Why you wouldn't want to give it to the guy again? I mean, he's obviously, if he's deserving of it, why wouldn't you give it to him? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Anyway, I'm not in the voting committee. I can't vote. Whatever.
Yeah. We're just two guys talking randomly.
Hey, that's what we usually do, right?
Yes, exactly. Midfielders.
That's what we're not paid for.
Yeah. No, we don't get paid for, Marissa. Midfielders. I think midfielders is pretty tough. They have Joe Walters listed as a midfielder. I was going to list him as attackman. I don't really know what to go with here, so I'm just going to go with the easy pick and go with Paul Rabel. Because they're going to lean on him. They're going to lean on him a lot this year. Especially with Pasque out.
Come on.
I'm going with Rabel.
Come on.
What? Crowley was the MVP last year.
I know, but I mean, Rabel really?
Yeah. Who else are you going to pick? Okay, let me go down the middies that are all in like the top points if we're just going by that. Okay? If we're just going by middies.
Don't go by points.
I'm just naming guys. This is sake for argument. Kevin Crowley, Paul Rabel, Joe Walters, Drew Snyder, Jeremy Sieverts. The next closest guy is Mike Stone with 34 points and Pete Polyon. So, I mean...
Yeah, but you also have to remember, you've got Kyle Harrison coming back, you've got Peter Baum coming back, too.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously we haven't seen him play in the MLL, but, Kyle Harrison did. And, we watched him during the USA game. I mean, you had a lot of discussion about that.
I was honestly thinking about taking Peter Baum and being, like, real dark horse with that, but I'm actually saving it for my attack unit.
Oh.
And you're not going to like this pick at all.
No, I'm not.
You're not going to like my attack pick at all. But it's the dark horse of Rob Pennell. I like his game, man. He had 42 points in 10 games for New York last year.
No, I'm not taking anything away from that.
I know. I'm just making an emphasis a point
I like
for dramatic effect.
I like dark horse picks. Come on.
Yeah.
Are you blaming me?
Yeah. So that's 13 points in 4 more games. That's doable. So that's my pick. Let's do last 4 picks for the games real quick, and then we'll end this one. All right.
Okay.
All right. First game: Hounds versus Machine. Bunch of young teams going at it with each other. Who you got?
Machine.
Machine in an upset?
I'm gonna call upset because they're gonna I just feel something's gonna happen with that team. Like, don't get me wrong, I want Charlotte. Charlotte's my number 1 pick, obviously.
Right.
But they're not gonna be number 1 probably till, like you said,
middle of the year,
I mean?
because
I see the Machine coming out early and just ready to go.
This first week, I could see it,
there.
especially with Baum and Harrison together. Yeah, I mean, I could see it. A lot of those additions, right, with the Hounds, they don't get, but Pierce Bassett really, I'm gonna take the Hounds slightly, but I could definitely see the Ohio Machine overtopping them because of the whole Gittleman and net. I mean, Gittleman was good for them last year, especially down the stretch. So
Yeah, he was, yeah.
I question what's gonna happen with Pierce Bassett. I'm Hounds because they pull it out with a little more veteran experience, but Machine give them a good run for their money.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a great game.
Yeah.
It really is.
Outlaws.
If it's not, then someone just really screwed up.
Yeah, we got rigging going on. Or we got point shaving. Outlaws launch. What do we got?
Outlaws.
Yeah. Do you think it's decisive, though?
Yes.
Or do you think it's closer than we think because of all the movement?
I really think the Outlaws are going to pull a big one because that's how they do it every year.
5, 6 goals more?
Probably 5.
5?
I mean,
Yeah.
it'll be close, but it won't be like 2 goals close.
Yeah. I think they really stretch out that launch defense because I don't think there's a lot on that launch defense, especially with that Brody Merrill.
Yeah,
That really worries me.
Don't get me wrong, Brett Queener's a good goalie, and so is Adam Fullerton.
Yeah.
But I mean, and Dylan Ward is too. But at the same time, like what Chesapeake did last year with slowing down the ball and whatnot against them. I mean, it's a completely different team right now because most of their players are MLL. So it's really hard for them to have their full team in.
Yeah, and to get a good read on what the launch are going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going Denver.
Yeah. Bayhawks Cannons. I think we're unanimous on the Bayhawks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Cannons just midfield defensively. They're missing Matt Pasque. I don't think it's a good game at all. I think it's a blowout. Last game, and probably the highlight of the week as we wind up here on MLL Roundtable. Interstate rivalry. Rochester Rattlers, New York Lizards, both teams trading a lot with each other this year, or during the offseason, which was really, really weird. Who do you have?
New York.
Big or small? Or narrow or whatever?
Pretty close.
Pretty close?
I mean, probably another like 5-goal game.
That's not close. That's kind of a blowout in the MLL.
I don't really think so.
No? Do
No,
you think it's like one of those games where it's like close throughout, it's like a 3-goal kind of thing, and then they kind of just get a couple cheap ones at the end?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's kind of like when the NHL guys they pulled the goalie. That's kind of like what it is towards the end of a game like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you double the ball, if you're down like 2, you think like, okay, we can do this, and we double the ball, and then you go from there. But yeah, I agree with New York. I think Rochester, they're the ones that are impacted the most by not having college guys in.
Yeah,
And they really just don't have much on the attack unit. So I will give New York, and I think it'll be more than 5 or 6 goals.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. I like to keep games close in my head.
Yeah, of course. For the fans, Brendan, for the fans. So Brendan, believe it or not, we just crammed an hour 35 podcast in tonight.
Dude, I love it.
And I'm sure people won't go past the first 10 minutes.
No, they probably won't. What the heck is wrong with these kids?
I'm gonna promote this and be like, it's an hour 35 long. People will listen to the first minute and get out.
They'll be like, okay, he said his name. We know who he is.
Maybe I'll follow him for a day. That's it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But it was a good show. A lot of information. I loved it.
It is. We do our usual show stuff, back and forth, go on our little rants here and there. And
yeah. We brag about our awesome playing careers at the D3 and MCLA level.
Yeah, of course.
And talk about the players that we kind of played with but don't actually know.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, actually, you probably do, but I like the highest profile guy from my high school team went D3, and like I know John Lade. I know like I played back in rec with him. But that was it.
That's what you gotta do, man. My buddy Mike's cousin, I think is John Lade. Like, my buddy's family's from upstate New York. I think his cousin. I think John Lade's his cousin.
Huh.
No. Sorry, Joel White.
Joel White.
Yeah.
By the way, they're actually really sneaky, Rochester. They have 3 of the 4 close defense, goalie, whatever of that really good national title team or 2-time national title team.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, look at that. Good job, Rochester.
That's what I'm saying. They sneak.
Yeah, they're sneaky little rattlers. They come up from out of nowhere and bite you in the butt and poison you.
And you gotta suck the poison out somehow.
Anyway, great show today, Brendan. Thanks to our listeners for tuning in to an hour and a half. I'm sure you didn't get past the first 10 minutes without closing us out, but if you did, job well done. Anyway, we'll be back. We'll be back with our crazy schedules probably next week sometime and do, a lot less minutes because we don't have as much to talk about. We'll just have games to talk about, which will be nice. And predictions, of course. We'll see how our predictions are going after the first week, but we hope you have a good weekend.